So as I mentioned, I wanted to make a separate video regarding the developmental assessment paper. This is due on Sunday of week 4. It is worth 30% of your grade, so I wanted to make sure that I go through it thoroughly. This assignment is required to be uploaded to the graduation information requirements course during your final semester of the program, so please make sure that you do save a copy on your computer, email it to yourself, do what you need to do to make sure that you keep this assignment. I do want to make sure that you treat this assignment just like any other. This is worth 30% of your grade, but it's just like any other paper that you would have for any other course. You just want to make sure that you're following the instructions, you're going and looking at the rubric to make sure that you meet all of the requirements for the paper. So, as I mentioned in the syllabus review, you're going to be selecting a case from your past work in field or past employment that has challenged you. If you are not able to identify a case from past work, you can use a character from a movie, a case study, a TV show, a book. Just make sure that you check with me before you start your paper to make sure that it would be relevant to use for this paper. So you are going to be describing some of the psychosocial data from the case. So we're going to be looking at significant experiences, looking at the physical, social, emotional, cognitive, biological even. You're going to be looking at the experiences that have contributed to your client's current symptoms. So you would want to give an overview of their current functioning and what that looks like. That's a good place to start. And then you're going to be relating current functioning to past relations and experiences. So here you're looking at object relations theory, and some of the theories that we've learned about so far in this course. And you're going to be enhancing that assessment by discussing some strengths and vulnerabilities or the influences of cultural identification. So this is where some of those issues related to oppression, cultural identity, discrimination, the neighborhood they lived in, so it could be geographical, it could be gender related, it could be sexuality related. You're kind of looking at them through larger context and how that has influenced who they are. Just make sure that you are using theory to support your thoughts and your assessment, and make sure that you are using theory that we have learned in this course so far. That is really important because, all of this developmental assessment is really relating to object relations theory and psychodynamic theories. So following that developmental assessment, where you're looking at factors that have influenced your client's functioning and some of their strengths and vulnerabilities, you're going to use that to inform the interventions that you would utilize with this client. So I'm not looking for you to tell me what you have done. We're looking at this hypothetically as if, this is a new case coming in for you to see, knowing what you do now and what specific intervention you would utilize that, might work for this client based on their strengths. So taking that strengths-based approach. And so essentially coming up with a treatment plan that draws from that developmental assessment. You want to make sure that there is a connection there, that, you're not just looking at interventions from what their current functioning is. You're looking at their whole developmental picture and what techniques would be useful for that client. In the next section, you're going to be discussing the transference and countertransference reactions that might occur with this client. Remember that in any case, there are going to be some transference and countertransference reactions. Countertransference, we don't want to look at this as a negative thing because it is just something that naturally occurs in the therapeutic relationship. The time that it becomes an issue is when we are not self-aware about it. So that's why this section is so important. I want you to really think critically here and identify where you might see some transference and countertransference reactions. And then I want you to also include in your discussion how you think the client's experiences with oppression or discrimination might influence that transference and countertransference. Again, any one person might have areas where they might experience oppression or discrimination, or maybe you could even discuss the influence of privilege in this area as well. These are factors that are influencing every person every day. Lastly, I don't want you to forget to evaluate how you would evaluate the efficacy of those interventions with your client and your work. So you can look at, maybe this would be a reevaluation of a treatment plan. It could be more informal. It could be just some check-ins with your client. It could be objective measures that you might use with your client. And you might want to also discuss how you think those interventions might have alleviated or will alleviate the effects of oppression and discrimination. So those are things, the oppression and discrimination piece is something that you're going to kind of weave throughout this entire developmental assessment. Here you can just see a general overview of how this paper is going to be graded and how your setup of the paper is going to look. So you'll see here that there's a recommendation for the amount of pages that you might be rating. Really, the middle section is going to be the bulk of the paper. So the assessment of development, the treatment plan, countertransference, and transference reactions. But please do make sure that you have all components of this paper. Again, make sure that your APA format is accurate. There are places you can look at. The MSW Student Resource Center can give a good overview of proper APA format for papers. Just make sure that you're using headings appropriately, subheadings, that you are using in-text citations, and your reference page is formatted accurately. Here you'll see the rubric. You'll see the way that things are going to be graded here. The total points available would be 50 points. The most important part of your paper is going to be your developmental assessment and the treatment plan that draws on your assessment. That is worth over half of the points for the paper. So we want to make sure that those are really drawn out, that you've done some research and you've really thought about it, and you have drawn your treatment plan from the assessment that you provided. If you have any questions about the paper, you can feel free to message me in Canvas. I fully recognize that there's going to be some questions along the way, that this video doesn't necessarily get through all of the questions or concerns that you might have about the paper. So just know that I'm available, and good luck, and I hope you have a great week.